I'm back. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about another important subject. I want to talk about the basic elements of dramatic writing, or otherwise known as the basic drama rules, or the basic elements of dramatic writing. Anyway, let's talk about them. I've written them down, and I want to just talk you through them. Why is it important? Now that you've sort of read and examined A Modern Family, you're going to read and examine a lot more. We're going to do more diagrams. I want you to keep these sort of basic drama rules in your mind because they're completely applicable to sitcoms. And sitcoms, I'll tell you more about as the course goes on. Most sitcoms are essentially farces. People don't like to use that word anymore, but that's exactly what they are. And I'll talk a little bit more about farce as we go on. But right now, I want to talk about the basic drama rules. Basic drama rules, if you've taken playwriting classes, etc. And in my other video, I told you that playwriting and sitcom writing are not that dissimilar. Basic drama rules are sort of the basic fundamental rules of drama. Okay, example, conflict is an important element. The more conflict, the better. You have to have sparks in your story or else nobody cares. People won't pay attention. They'll nod off, as many of you are probably nodding off right now. Okay? So, conflict comes from characters pursuing, I've got some notes I'm reading off of, pursuing their agendas, going after what they want, and facing opposition from either each other or from something inside themselves. The old rule used to be, they used to say it was either, a story is either going to have, a dramatic story is either going to have man versus himself, man versus the elements, or man versus other man. Okay? That was the old way of putting it, but the point that I'm clearly trying to make is that still applies. Either a human being is facing another human being and that person's in their way or they're in each other's way. Okay, that's conflict. That helps tell a dramatic story that you need for a dramatic story. Or the person is in conflict with themselves. And that's perfectly good as well. And then, of course, there's a conflict with the elements. And we're not going to use that much in sitcom. Really, the first two are the ones that we're going to talk about. I want you to think about conflict all the time. That's one of the reasons we talk a lot about actions in a script, actions in a story, actions in a scene. Okay? Conflict is absolutely necessary for drama. Can't really have one without the other. And 90% of the time, scripts don't have enough conflict. That goes for feature screenplays, plays, it goes for comedy sketches, and it goes for TV scripts, whether they're drama or sitcom, but we're going to focus on sitcom. Okay, action, we talked about actions. You got to have as much action as possible. And just to be really clear, and I think you guys got this because I thought the assignments were done really well, action can be, he hits him with a hatchet, murdering him, or action can be, she subtly undermines his well-being by implying that he's insecure. That's an action. That's a dramatic action. It could be very subtextual, but it's action. A handful of people at a dinner table can use actions on each other or on themselves to try to accomplish goals. And it can be very, very subtle or it can be very, very overt. But it's all action, and I want you to focus on it as we read these scripts and write. And you guys did a great job on those assignments. Tension. It goes right up there with conflict. Good stories have a lot of tension, okay? What's going to happen next? And by the way, that phrase I just used, what's going to happen next? What happens next? I always write it, I might write it on your assignments, WHN, is something you want all the time. A great writer once said, the only thing he cares about the audience thinking when his play or his movie is running is what happens next. If the audience is wondering what happens next, that's good. If they don't care, you're failing as a dramatic writer. Okay? And for the most part, I think as a novelist too, but I ain't teaching novels. I'm teaching TV sitcom right now with you guys. So keep in mind that at the end of every scene, really at the end of every page, at the end of every moment, and at the end of every sentence that characters speak in your scenes, when you get to writing, because you will be doing some writing in this class, you want people to wonder when they're reading what happens next. Okay? Most important question that the reader or the audience member watching can ask. Okay? Stakes. Conflict without stakes can be pretty boring. Seeing two strangers fight on the street could be fun for a couple minutes, but then you're probably just going to drive on, right? Find out that one of them is your mom and one of them is your best friend, and it has more stakes for you, right? Find out that one of them is somebody's boyfriend or girlfriend, and he or she's going to really cry to high heaven if that person dies, and it takes on stakes. Okay, it's not just important that we see that Gloria and Phil are arguing. What's important is we know in the back of any scene when married people argue is the threat of divorce. You wouldn't want Gloria and Phil to get divorced. What would happen to Manny? Right? You wouldn't want Claire and Phil to get divorced. What happened to the 3 kids? Oh boy, that'd be a bummer, right? So it has stakes, emotional stakes for us, emotional stakes for them. When they have emotional stakes, usually the reader, the audience member has them. So when you see me write on your on the scripts you're gonna, the scenes you're gonna write weeks from now, stakes, need more stakes. There's a reason I didn't spell it STAEAKS. Haha, it's a terrible joke I just made. Okay, but I'm telling you. Always do this when you're writing dramatic material. Raise the stakes, okay? Always raise the stakes. I remember years ago I was watching a scene. What was that show? It was called ER. You remember, was that show that George Clooney was in like 15 years ago, 20 years ago? And Eric LaSalle was operating on somebody, and he was an emergency room doctor. This is a drama, not a sitcom, but it doesn't matter. And suddenly realized that the young man he's operating on is actually his nephew, who got hit by a car. Oh, the stakes just rose. Suddenly, if he makes a mistake, his nephew dies, not just a stranger. Always raise the stakes when you're writing dramatic material. That goes for feature screenplays, plays, drama, and it always goes for sitcom. Make things matter more. And that can get kind of tricky in a sitcom because you're not going to write that Claire and Phil are on the edge of divorce every time. But if things are going badly between them, it's unhappiness in the household. That's a stake. That's raising the stakes. Okay, escalation, basically the same thing as raising the stakes. It's a word you'll hear screenwriters and TV writers throw around a lot. Just keep in mind that when in doubt, always escalate. That means that a story turn comes along that raises the stakes. These are redundant, overlapping terms, but I want you to get them in your head. And I'm going to talk about scene and story arc a little later. I'm not going to hit that one right now. So I just hit you with some basic rules of dramatic writing that are going to come up, that we're going to talk about, and they're going to affect the way you do these diagrams and eventually write your scenes. Okay. So that's it. I hope this is useful. And you can email me and tell me it was not useful or it was useful, etc. But I just want you to keep these terms in your head as we're working. Okay. Greg out.